When people reach the pinnacle of fame, most choose the spotlight, the applause, the grand stage. Rafael Nadal chose differently. While the world was still watching the brightly lit stadiums, he quietly returned to Mallorca. Morning slowly breaks, light settling over the peaceful finca. No trophies, no crowd, just time in silence. Why does a champion withdraw, especially when he's at the top? And what truly begins behind that gate? Rafael Nadal's story begins far from grandstands, on Mallorca, where everyday life and discipline set the pace. Born on June 3, 1986, he grew up in an environment where performance wasn't demanded, but demonstrated. Talent showed early, almost unspectacularly. By the age of 8, he was already winning tournaments, while soccer also vied for his attention. But it was precisely during this phase that a decision was made that would organize everything. His father made it clear what was needed. No coexistence, no hesitation. One path, full commitment. When the Spanish Federation suggested a move to Barcelona to utilize better structures, the family consciously decided against it. Mallorca remained the center of his daily life. Training without distraction, development without external pressure. By age 15, the results became visible. Early victories, records. His entry into the professional circuit didn't seem forced, but logical. These years shaped more than just a player. They created an attitude that would later decide victories and defeats. But how exactly did this attitude carry him through the toughest phases of his career? Rafael Nadal's transition into professional sports wasn't explosive, but consistent. On clay courts, he began to forge a clear identity for himself. There, he cultivated dominance through patience, endurance, and a willingness to fight for every point. Victories came early, but they never stood alone. What was crucial was how he earned them, step by step, without shortcuts. On grass, he learned a different lesson. At Wimbledon, it wasn't about control, but about waiting, about resistance, about enduring long phases without an advantage. Here, his inner attitude became particularly evident. Not every point had to be won, but none could be given away. This ability to withstand tension accompanied him throughout his entire career. The rivalry with Roger Federer further sharpened this character. It forced him to define himself not only technically, but mentally. The court became a mirror. The world number one came, disappeared, and returned. Injuries interrupted the rhythm, breaks forced patience, but every setback refined his method. Titles only partly explained his success. More important was his relationship to stress, to repetition, to constant self-examination. But where did this attitude lead him away from competition, as the noise of the stadiums grew quieter? Outside the tournament calendar, Mallorca becomes a fixed focal point. Near the town of Campos lies the finca, nestled amidst open fields, low vegetation, and palm trees. Nothing pushes itself to the forefront. Access is deliberately kept calm. A gravel path slowly leads onto the property, as if the place itself is asking you to slow down and arrive. The house blends effortlessly into the landscape. Mediterranean red, clean lines, 2 floors, green shutters that guide the light and always connect the interior with the exterior. Everything seems stable, grounded, without the desire to impress. The architecture follows no trend, but the rhythm of the day. Here it's not about racing ahead of time, but accompanying it. Stone walls, open spaces, and deliberate distances create protection without enforcing separation. The finca seems to maintain its own tranquility, regardless of who is staying there. That's precisely its significance. It is not a retreat out of weakness, but a place of order. A space where discipline doesn't end, but takes on a different form. But how does this principle manifest inside the house, where everyday life and family set the tone? Upon entering the house, the space opens up without staging. The living room and dining area flow into one another, bathed in natural light that streams from the garden into the interior. Nothing seems separated, nothing overloaded. Everyday life is allowed to be visible here. Conversations, breaks, shared time find their place without being planned. Warm floors and exposed wooden beams soften any harshness and give the room a calm, grounded atmosphere. The kitchen follows the same logic: modern, functional, fully integrated. It's not a showpiece but a workspace. Everything is designed to be used. From here, the gaze always falls on the green of the garden or the open sky. Inside and outside remain connected as part of a common rhythm. 4 bedrooms are distributed evenly throughout the house. They offer retreat, light, and peace. The master bedroom feels like a quiet sanctuary, simple, bright, without excess. The 4 bathrooms also feature clean lines and practical solutions. Comfort here comes not from luxury, but from consistency. But beyond these interiors begins another area where movement, memory, and the present meet. As soon as you leave the house, the finca opens up into the expanse again. The garden is generously landscaped, without strictness, without the compulsion of symmetry. In the center lies the 15-meter-long pool, surrounded by a wide terrace where the daily rhythm is determined by the position of the sun. Nearby, a jacuzzi and a simple wellness area invite you to slow down and consciously let your body relax. A little further, the tennis court stretches out. It doesn't look like a separate training area, but rather an integral part of the property. Here, Nadal repeats familiar movements, letting his body remember, without pressure, without an audience. Past and present meet quietly. Training becomes routine, not a demonstration. Shaded areas, resting places, and a simple barbecue complete the outdoor area. Everything is designed for gathering, not for staging. No grand gestures, no distractions. The finca remains a place where movement and stillness can coexist. But even beyond this retreat, his daily life continues, especially where mobility takes on a new role. Outside the finca, this controlled rhythm of life continues, also in the way Rafael Nadal moves. His vehicles don't stand for status, but for different phases and needs. The Aston Martin DBS, valued at around $300,000, reflects precision and control. On the road, it appears calm, stable, predictable. No exaggeration, but absolute mastery, similar to those moments when a match turns and concentration decides everything. A different tone is evident in the Ferrari 458 Italia, estimated at about $250,000. Here, movement becomes more direct, more emotional. Engine noise and reaction allow tension to dissipate. This car is not a companion for everyday life, but an outlet for moments when pressure has already been released. In between lies functionality. The Kia Sorento handles practical errands unspectacularly, reliably, without demanding attention. This everyday life is complemented by the Kia EV6, an electric model with a quiet character. Silent, efficient, without urgency. This selection shows not a collecting habit, but a clear system. Each vehicle fulfills a task, supporting balance and rhythm. But how are these principles reflected in numbers and wealth? The financial figures in Rafael Nadal's career are not a product of individual highlights, but the result of long-term consistency. Since his professional debut in 2001, he has steadily built up a fortune, which is estimated today at around $220 million US. More than $134 million alone come from official prize money. For many years, he was one of the highest-earning players on the court. Particularly remarkable is his consistency. For over 10 consecutive years, Nadal won at least one Grand Slam title per season. Even phases with injuries, forced breaks, and reduced playing schedules did not interrupt the financial flow. Income remained stable because performance was never short-term. Off the court, the same predictability developed. His total annual earnings hovered around $40 million over longer periods. Sponsorship contracts accounted for more than $20 million in individual years. This structure ensured that financial security did not depend on the next tournament. The milestone in 2020 when his total career and advertising earnings exceeded the $150 million mark, was also not a turning point, but a confirmation. Numbers here serve not for show, but as a foundation for everything that follows. But how does Nadal use this foundation beyond his own life? Just as his career was never based on quick effects, his social commitment also follows a long-term principle. Since 2008, Rafael Nadal has consolidated his social work through the Fundación Rafa Nadal. It is not an accompaniment to fame, but a stable structure with a clear focus. Annually, between approximately 2.2 and 3.3 million US dollars are available for this, primarily for educational and sports programs for children and young people in difficult life situations. A central focus is in Anantapur, India. There, about $1.1 million flow each year into academic support, nutrition, and sports activities. For many children, this opens up perspectives that would be unattainable without this support. It is not about one-off aid, but a continuous presence that renews itself year after year. On Mallorca, too, his commitment remains closely linked to his origins. Through the Rafa Nadal Academy Foundation, approximately $80,000 are provided annually for sports scholarships, educational programs, and integration projects. This long-term work is supplemented by personal assistance in exceptional situations. During the COVID-19 pandemic, Nadal donated more than $100,000 to medical aid funds in Spain. In addition, there were further contributions to support victims of natural disasters on Mallorca. The pattern remains constant. Clear figures, little public attention, lasting impact. For him, help is not an event, but part of everyday life. But what does this everyday life look like when competition finally fades into the background? After the end of his active career, there was no standstill, but a change of pace. Rafael Nadal's daily life did not lose structure, but urgency. Fixed times, regular work, and proximity to sports remained, only without the permanent pressure of competition. He continues to participate in advertising campaigns, meets fans, and is closely involved in sports education projects, especially through his training center, where experience is more important than grand words. Awards and trophies are still present, but no longer dictate the rhythm of the day. The focus clearly shifts. Family moves to the forefront. Time with his wife, with close relatives, and shared travels gains significance. Changes of location become shared experiences, not appointments on the calendar. A hand operation recently slowed down physical activity as well. Recovery proceeds consciously, calmly, without haste. Nadal remains active, trains when possible, plays golf with friends, enjoys long meals and conversations without time pressure. Life no longer revolves around victory or defeat, but around continuity. But what remains in the end, when all these levels are brought together?